If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that a little while back, I announced I was talking to investors about my startup AI Box. We ended up getting such a huge influx of people talking to us that we kind of changed our strategy regarding fundraising, and we have a really exciting announcement coming soon. But if you were an investor that had previously reached out to me and jumped on a call, make sure to reach out again. I have some really exciting news to give to you, or if you're an investor today looking to invest in an absolutely groundbreaking AI startup, I'm going to leave my email, jaden@aibox.ai, in the description, and I'll give you the inside scoop. Today on the podcast, we're going to be covering a very interesting new AI startup, and it is called Saronic. This is a defense startup, and they're specifically building autonomous ships. They've just raised $55 million in order to do this, and I believe year to date, they've raised over $70 million. So today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about exactly what they plan on doing with this new round of funding, what they currently do, where they're at with their technology, and the implications I think that this has for defense and the military, especially in light of everything we're seeing in the world today, as it would appear things are heating up. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Welcome to the world's #1 AI podcast, AI Chat. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. In what I view is a significant boost to kind of the rising sector of maritime automation, Saronic, a Austin-based startup, is focused on autonomous defense ships and has successfully secured $55 million in a Series A round. Now, to me, this is a particularly interesting field and industry. For those that don't know, I actually, when I was a teenager, when I was 17, I spent an entire year sailing from San Francisco down to San Diego, and we spent a few months in California, and then we sailed across the ocean to the South Pacific. We visited virtually all the islands in the South Pacific, and ended our boat trip in Vanuatu. We visited Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, pretty much everywhere in the South Pacific, and we lived on a boat for an entire year. So for me, when I see any of these sort of startups that are specifically in this maritime space, this is very interesting to me. I think I'll have some interesting insights on, what may or may not be useful in some of these situations. But of course, this is more focused on defense, which I do not have a ton of experience in, was never part of the military or anything like that. In any case, this is really, really interesting. So the funding round actually witnessed leading participation from Caffeinated Capital. They also had a few other kind of notable VCs, including 8VC, Andreessen Horowitz, which of course A16Z, one of the tops. They had Lightspeed Venture Partners, Point72 Ventures, and they had a few others. I think interestingly, the U.S. Innovation Technology Fund also put into this round. So this was founded by Dino Mavroukas, who is an ex-Navy SEAL, and that's Saronic's mission is very crystal clear. Essentially, what they're trying to do is engineer autonomous surface ships tailored for the Navy and other defense customers within the U.S. alliance. So while autonomous maritime vehicles aren't entirely new, with companies like, Saildrone already making a bunch of waves, they have over $100 million in venture capital, I believe, for kind of research vessels. The focus on defense by Saronic, I think, kind of distinguishes its market position. So other firms like Y Combinator-backed Shown are directing efforts on tech to retrofit existing ships for autonomous navigation. I think what's, really the unique proposition of Saronic is that they recently said, quote, "We build our boats around the mission and not the mission around the boats. Instead of adapting legacy platforms, Saronic innovates from scratch, aiming to bridge the gap between large naval ship manufacturing and the need for specialized autonomous ship design." So currently the company's spotlight is on two prototypes. They have a 6-foot Spyglass and a 13-foot Cutlass. And these are actually very small ships. I guess, I'm sure you can imagine, right? Six feet. This is like a rowboat pretty much. Not even, right? And 13 foot. So they're really going for very small and I'm assuming very versatile crafts. These vessels are designed with some really cutting-edge, remotely updatable software and an ability to handle varied payloads, even in communication challenge zones. So the thing a couple things I'll say here. These are very small, so I'm assuming these are meant to go very fast and get into places. They're probably hard to hit. They're a very small target, so I'm assuming that this is great for, that when you're looking at the military. One thing that I think is interesting, though, is it says these are remotely updatable. They have remotely updatable software. This is actually something recently speaking with some people in this industry, specifically looking at the military. This is something typically I actually see people wanting to avoid. You do not typically want remote updatable software on your ship because if it's remote updatable, that means it's prone to be hacked essentially. Something that a lot of people are working on right now is, essentially computing on the edge, aka like making these AI models like run on the actual tank or on the actual Humvee or on the actual, vehicle itself, if it's going to be autonomous, self-driving. Because the problem is, if it's, relying on anything in the cloud, then that can get severed. The connection can get severed. If it doesn't have connection, it doesn't run, it can't update. Or, of course, you could have a remote hack that is, essentially updating a piece of hardware or a piece of software onto it that is, going to render it obsolete. So that's my only thing that I think is a little bit, I don't know, I'm a little bit skeptical on. But in any case, I'm sure they're, creating encryption in other areas. But, we do know a lot of our geopolitical adversaries here in the United States, when you think of people like Russia or China, etc., are very, very sophisticated in their hacking and in their, in essentially that whole side of their military. So something that I would definitely say is important to think about. In any case, the U.S. Navy has already signed 2 R&D agreements, which I think is definitely a testament to the startup's potential. Ann Heim, who is a journalist, recently spotlighted a shift in the VC landscape. More investment is definitely right now, I believe, pouring into defense tech. So in fact, 2021 was a banner year for US-based defense tech startups, raising around $2.1 billion across 53 deals. And I think the pace isn't relenting. So Helsing, which is a defense AI startup, they recently raised a whopping $223 million in a Series B round. Close on its heels, there's Castellan and Mach Industries, which secured substantial funding for their different defense tech initiatives. So what is driving the surge in defense tech spending? A lot of people are talking. I think there's a lot of things that play into this right now. I think someone that was kind of like on the edge, kind of pushing this forward before it was super popular. Of course, a lot of people think of Palmer Luckey, who is, kind of the founder of Oculus. And after selling that to Facebook, and then I believe getting kicked out of Facebook by the leadership there, he obviously had a, sizable check from the sale. I believe they bought Oculus for around $3 billion. And he went on to go and start Andro, which is a defense startup. They're building a bunch of autonomous, aircrafts and some other, drones and other interesting things in the space. And he's been like a very vocal proponent of, essentially in tech. A lot of times we see people that say, they're too good, or they kind of have this, superiority complex against working with the military and the U.S. government. His, line of reasoning is that tech companies that are in America should 100% be working with the American government to defend the country that they are, operating in, as it's definitely in their best interest. And so I think we've seen kind of a shift in the VC landscape where, you used to have companies like Google, which refuse to do any work with the U.S. military. And so I think it's becoming companies, and venture capital is definitely warming up to this idea. In addition to that, I think the geopolitical chessboard has, of course, the ongoing Ukraine conflict, which is, if you just looked at it from a political perspective, there is definitely more lawmakers on the Democrat side that are more publicly supporting that, and probably more on the conservative side that are less in favor of funding that conflict. And so I think because of that, of course, Silicon Valley, where you typically had this pushback against working with the military from employees at Google who were, had a higher chance of being left-leaning, all of a sudden there's kind of this like big conflict that I believe, their own political party is really talking about the importance of. And so I think things like that also are kind of shifting the mindset of people on the right and the left as far as working with tech and working with, tech in the military. So I think there's a bunch of also regulatory shifts in China that are affecting tech exports and investments, combined with some really proactive U.S. policies like CHIPS and the Science Act are kind of recalibrating global investment strategies. However, I think amidst all of these global, currents, Saronic remains focused on its core strength. As Marukas puts it, the company is not just another boat builder dabbling in tech, but is a bona fide tech firm addressing the unique challenges of maritime autonomy. So far, Saronic's voyage seems very promising. I think they have $70 million in venture capital already in their bank, and I think they have a really robust team of around 45 people. So the startup, I think, is poised to make some big steps in maritime defense tech, and it's definitely a company we'll continue to follow into the future.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance, deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale, and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate me wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure you check out our Discord channel and also our Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can actually share software tools, prompts that we're using in everyday AI. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.